Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
That's so awesome, Tricia. So Amber was singing along. I have a tendency to do that too, Amber. That's so cute. I'm so glad that you do that. Hello, everyone. It is CFN Live. It's February 1st. Can you believe we are done January? Where'd it go? What happened? You blink and it's over. You would think with this COVID the way it is, and it has us all on lockdown, that time would go a little bit slower. Well, I'll tell you, time is dragging its heels when it comes to the CFN retreat, and it was reminded today that we are, I think, under 200 days till the CFN retreat, and I tell you, I can't wait. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to be able to gather and socialize normally. It's August. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen, but yeah, I can't wait. CFN retreat, and I'll tell you, visions of what we just saw with that opening video. Looking forward to that too. However, I also enjoy the hard water season, and it's different this year. Show of hands, how many people would say it's different? It's different. You know, we can't do what we want to do, and as I said, we've been over it, and it's a dead horse that's been beaten over and over again. But it's just everything's so different, and it's you know, for the sake of mental health and the well-being of everyone in our CFN community, who I love dearly, I want it to change, and I want it to get better so that we can we don't have to worry about how we do things and who we're associating with and the travel, and let's just get it back to normal. It's nice to hear that the numbers are going down here in Ontario. I don't know what's happening across Canada, but here in Ontario it's starting to drop, even though we have extended the lockdown. But needless to say, hopefully we get back to what is normal. Tony, how you doing? Barry's in the house. David, yeah, baby, out the West Coast. Trevor Martin, hey, boys. Charles Durachi, yes, sir, yes, sir. Keith Duster, how you doing, buddy? Steve Shaw's in the house. Rough Waters Rise, or Reese. Did I say that right? Rough Waters Reese? Totally different this. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Scott Stewart out the BC as well. Wow, we got quite the contingent from our West Coast. Guys, the whole show is being dedicated to the one and only Big Jim. We're going to be doing a montage before we get to him. When we hit the montage, and you'll see it, and I want to thank Steve Shaw for putting it together. Nice little video he put together to show our respect to Jim and everything that he does and means to our community. So stay tuned to that. We'll be playing that, and during that, you wish Big Jim as many times as you can happy birthday, because on behalf of our community, we can't thank him enough for what he does and how much he is dedicated to this community. And again, what he did last week for us, Dave Gens, ticked the old bucket list. Dave Gens joined us. I hope you guys saw that show, because you are looking at a true Rembrandt. This gentleman is the pioneer of hard water. I call him the godfather of hard water. He truly is. And what he has done to pioneer how we approach hard water angling has changed a lot due to his initiatives, his forethought, you know, his family, the amount of family involvement when it came to knitting and sewing and painting the fish trap, the original fish trap, and what Clam has done to further his vision. It's just awesome. And I'll tell you, he's a salt of the earth. Jim and I will talk about it on his segment, but just what a down-to-earth guy. like just a salt of the earth. So big shout out to Dave Gens for joining us last week. Can't thank you enough for that. CFN photo contest update. Hopefully you guys have been, I saw tons of photos submitted. I just wanted to give you an update that the January winner has in fact been chosen, and we will, as legacy members, be posting that very shortly. We are also going to run a February contest, March contest, and every month of the year leading up to December. So we will be picking a winner each month. Not only will you go as our profile pick for the CFN page, but also you will be added to the CFN calendar, which we will hope will be available for 2022. So congratulations to our first winner. You're going to have to stay tuned. We will be posting it momentarily on the CFN Facebook page. And as I said, on behalf of all of CFN and our legacy members, congratulations to you for a great pick. CFN jersey update. We are very close. I want to right off the bat, I want to thank Walter, who has been working extremely hard, re-rendering all of the logos to make sure they are ready for the jersey. And Richard Dunlop, big shout out to him as well. He is now putting together a mock-up prototype. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to look like. It's definitely going to look different than the last jersey. It's definitely going to be an update, and we're going to include some of the new logos that our good friend Walter has come up with. And can't thank him enough for that. He works very hard at that. And I'll tell you, he has got a thing when it comes to art. Let's just say, or graphic design, I will say, is a better way. Cliff's in the house. A good reminder for Cliff and the BC Fishing Network podcast. Again, will be airing on Wednesday at 10:30. Stay tuned to that. That podcast that Cliff and his team are doing is getting better and better each week. So stay tuned to that. Happy birthday. I tell you, you can see it all already. Look at all of this is so amazing. You guys are awesome. That's awesome. Yes, Fernando, we are working on that. Great question about the YouTube. Getting links for you for some of the stuff. We are going to be working. Dave Gens was the first episode, I will say, that was uplinked to YouTube right away, as well as this live tonight is our very first one that's being uploaded to YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't get into the CFN network channel. I will do my best to try and fix that, but for right now it is being uploaded to Scotty's Outdoors, and I invite you to go over and have a look at Dave Gens's great segment last Thursday. And again, big shout out to Jim for that. So that's the update for the jersey. Hoping we'll have a prototype in the next week, so that as I mentioned, it will be February that we will be launching. I was hoping it was going to be February 1st, but life gets in the way, and Walter has been working feverishly trying to get the logos re-rendered so they were ready. So as I said, patience, but it is coming. The Winter Fish Fest, as you know, has been postponed. We want to thank everybody for our CFN community for chiming in with your opinions and advice. Very positive and good constructive criticism in some of the comments that you guys left and gals, and we really appreciated that. We listened to our community, and I want to thank Michael Consul for making that post that it is postponed. It isn't completely canceled. It is postponed, and we are trying to do what we can to mirror what's going on around us. So stay tuned to that. CFN Fish Off is postponed, not canceled. We will be talking to Jim. Of course, everything that he wished for his birthday, hopefully he got. So we'll be talking to Jim about that. Lawrence Gunther will be stopping by to talk about how depth plays a role in how we target species and basically how we focus our day of angling. There's a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes to depths. So, if you are harvesting fish, that's one thing. If you are looking to catch and release fish, then it's very important that you concentrate on depth, especially with certain species. So Lawrence will be talking about that. On his Feel the Bite segment, we're going to be talking about the importance of using blue tips. If you don't know what they are, we're going to find out with Lawrence. So stay tuned to that. And that is his Feel the Bite segment. And Jason Barnucz is going to be stopping by. Speaking about do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts when it comes to hard water angling. There's a whole gamut of stuff that Jason's going to talk about, but Cameron Tate reached out to me today, and Jason and I are going to mention it in his segment. The importance, if you are out in a shack and you are using some kind of propane heater, that you have a carbon monoxide detector inside your hut, especially if you're sleeping over. If you're spending the night in that hut, it is a must that if you're producing heat, that there's a chance that you could produce carbon monoxide. And for that reason, make sure you have one of those darn things in your hut, because unfortunately, you're never going to know when the hazard hits you. You're going to be out cold, and unfortunately, you won't be able to join us every Monday. And I don't want to see that to happen to anybody in our community. So here's the montage. Big shout out to our buddy Steve Shaw for putting this together. And this is to show our respects for the birthday boy, Big Jim McLaughlin. Cheers to you, Jim.
Yo, thank you. That was awesome, guys. Much appreciated.
Steve showed me that this morning, and he wasn't sure as you know, and he put together some great stuff, he and Walter, and he put that together, and I'm like, whoa, buddy, that's brilliant. I like that. So I made sure to download it to make it ready for tonight. And Jim, what are we celebrating? Your 42nd birthday?
Oh, 49. Come on.
God, a boy. Dude, you don't look a day over 17. Let's be honest.
I had a really funny note from a guy today. He sends me a note. He says, Big Jim, I don't know you, but I've talked to you at the shows. You seem like a really good going guy. I'm just curious. He said, can I ask you how old you are? He said, just tell me, are you under 60 or over? I said, well, I'm flirting with 70. And he came back and I can't say what he said. He came out with 3 or 4 prime words in there. But yeah, no, he was absolutely shocked that I'm getting close to 70. So it's it's what it is. You keep going, eh?
It is, dude, and you are a testament to that, my friend. Every time we get a Monday to spend with you, you're always here. You put a smile on your face, regardless of the kind of day you're having. But you told me that today was a good day. Explain that.
It was a really good day. I was up this morning really early. I woke up about about 4:45. I said, I got up, went back to bed. 20 minutes later, I was in the truck heading down to Gananoque to grab a coffee at Hortons. So I went for a little ride, caught the sun coming up on the way back, which was absolutely stellar. It was just like, it's funny. I think one thing this thing is, I've always been huge, as you know, on early mornings and stuff like that. It's just where I find a lot of my gas for the day, And this morning was just special. And then it sort of, I didn't even realize it was my birthday. I wasn't even thinking. And, I came back home. On the way home, I was watching the otters in the river. I caught them again this morning, which is really, really cool. I could just barely see it. It was just starting to get light. But I went, I came home. I did a bunch of stuff around the house. We had breakfast, Tammy and I. And then so the one part of the family we've stayed in touch with is Lindsay, because Tammy had to spend so much time with her because she had lost her license. Because remember, about a year ago, she had a couple of seizures.
Yeah.
Well, she's got her license back now. Everything's good, and it's all there. So they came over and had a little birthday party for me this morning, and
nice.
it was awesome. There we had they couldn't find a 6 and a 7 because I turned 67. They couldn't find the number, so they found a 6 and a 1, and they put 6 other single candles. So you got to count them up to make 67. But
whatever works.
No, it was we did that. Then we had to bring Tammy down to the doctor in Ottawa to get her. She's her knees from all the figure skating and all the ice shows she did years ago, all the jumping and landing. Her knees give her a little bit of grief once in a while. So because of COVID here, she's about 4 months late getting the cortisone shots in her knees. So when she came out, she had a silly, shit-eating grin on her face. The only way to put it. She was pretty excited because the pain was gone. And we went and picked up a little bit of takeout stuff for dinner, which we haven't touched we haven't done anything like that in like 6 weeks. Came home, we had something to eat. I got a couple of emails that were good about the future things and everything else. And it's just it's a good day when there's nothing bad.
No, you're right, Jim. But, looking back on some of the photos that Steve added to that montage, dude, you're a guy who's done some stuff and seen some stuff. And, obviously everybody talks about how you are with, the female anglers and the young anglers and showing, giving them that appreciation, that push, that sense of inspiration that perhaps maybe a young angler or female angler needs to say, yeah, you know what? If Jim says I can do it, I can do it. You've been doing that for years. What if looking back, and again, this isn't like looking back at your life as if we're paying you respects by any means, but if you could look back, what was one story that really caught your attention? Like, wow, I'm so glad I was a part of that.
Oh, geez. There's probably a million things. I don't get one that just really sticks out. I sort of appreciate them all. And I've always been of the belief that when you mentioned, especially about children and women, when the fish looks out of the water and sees you, he doesn't know whether you're a child, a man, or a woman.
Amen.
It's you that makes the difference looking at the fish. And it's just what you do to go out there and have fun. But we've done a lot of things in the past where I've had quite a few kids. Actually, when I was being treated for the cancer and I had no hair and I don't need to describe it. It wasn't a pretty thing. I see pictures of it now and I just shudder. What you look like,
Mm.
And we took a young lad out one day, a buddy of mine, Matt from Ottawa, who loves muskie fishing. And I called him and I said, the kid wants to go fishing with me. I'm not capable of taking him fishing. I just got chemo on Tuesday. I'm a wreck. Can we get a muskie fishing in the Rideau River? Because he's not good at all. He's had 3 or 4 bouts of cancer. He's like 17. And he's not going to be here long, for long. And as it was, he passed about a week after we had him out in the boat. He's in the boat. He's like, he was better than me. He was making fun of me for puking.
Wow.
And we both found, the both of us had done chemo within a week, eh? And the young kid like that making fun of me. And I had to leave after about 2 hours. I was cooked. I was done. It was one of those beautiful, calm, sunny days. And, we got that young lad out there. And in the morning, he didn't catch anything, but Matt got him on he got 2 fish in the afternoon. I think he got a small muskie, if I remember correctly, like just a little 32 incher or something. But he got like a 5-pound largemouth on a great big spinner bait that they were trolling on the edge of the weeds. So that made his day. That it was the biggest bass he ever caught. So he thought it was really, really cool. He had a great day, and little things like that. Then I've told you about the young lad that I went for him to get his chemo done.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the parking lot talking to Mercer, and I'm scared shitless to go in there. I mean, I've been through it all. I know what it was all about. And then I go in, and the nurse says to me, Jim, this is really amazing that you've taken the time to come down here. And I said, well, it's just what it is, you know. And I spent the morning with him, and the nurse told me that he had never let anybody in the chemo room where they actually, it's just a little cubicle. It's nothing special. You know, you're getting a needle in a bag just like an IV. But he had never wanted anybody in a room, and he let me in. You know, he'd been treated for a couple of years. Well, he'd be about 24 now, and I saw some pictures of him from about a year and a half ago with his little girlfriend, beautiful little girl, and they were on vacation down south together. It was his first vacation going away, you know. Just a wonderful, I'm not going to mention family names, but just a wonderful, wonderful kid. We talk once in a while. We trade stories, but he did that. And in the afternoon, he had got a thing. They had applied through the Children's Wish Foundation in Ottawa. And I had told the lady that ran that years before. She had sent me a card and asked me if I would ever be available. And I said, yeah, if you ever need to call me. I would be honored. But I said, frankly, when you've got the likes of, you know, Alfredson and guys from the Senators and things like that there, I said, I don't think you're going to be calling me. But anyways, it's there. So who does he pick? He picks me. And they gave him $5,000 to spend. So it was really cool. He didn't want to go down south. He wanted a shopping spree at a fishing store. So I went to chemo with him in the morning. He was a little tired. We went out. We met his mom again, and she took him home. In the afternoon, they had a limo bring him and three of his buddies back to LeBaron in Ottawa. And I drove back down to Ottawa again and met him at the store. And he spent the $5,000 at the store. But it was really cool because he gave all his buddies. He had three buddies with them. He gave each of them a $333 gift certificate. He spent $1,000 of his $5 on his buddies, and he bought $5,000 worth of fish and stuff. And away they went. Put it all in the limo, rods, reels, ice fishing. It was just a circus.
Holy.
And the kid, the kid fishes his butt off. Now, in fact, when we moved to this house, we almost bought a house on the lake that he lives. And we didn't know about it. I talked to him after, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you mean over by?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh my God, that's where I live."
Wow.
Just like that. Yeah.
Well, you weren't kidding. You couldn't pin it down to one. And Jim, you've been a part of some amazing stories.
Yeah. And like blessed for it all. Like you can't say that you would ever not wanted stuff like that to be part of your life.
It's true. It is true. And you have been a great mentor, great teacher to all of us, including myself. And, we can never thank you enough. As you're seeing in the comments, people truly appreciate everything that you've brought to the industry and our CFN community. But speaking of bringing to our CFN community, it was kind of neat sitting back and watching you and Dave talk on Thursday. And what a salt of the earth. And again, thanks so much for bringing him to.
Did I appear to be in awe?
So you cut me off because that's exactly what I was going to say. What was so cool was in the very beginning. I do this all the time anyway, but you look up to him like I look up to you, and watching you interact with him was like taking a step back and looking in the mirror, going, "Wow, is this what it looks like?"
No, it was. Yeah, he's just a wondrous person. The only reason why I really have anything to do with ice fishing is because of him.
Yeah.
I had my part in the business with the bass tournaments and that, and he just brought a whole different part to it. And, he taught me literally, over the space of 3 winters, how to be able to catch fish all the time. And it's just really, really cool to have, to be fortunate to do that. And I just got some other stuff here. We're going to be doing, with the spring fishing show, they're going to be doing a virtual boat show.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing some stuff, myself and Will and a couple of other guys. I'm not sure who Andy picked for that, but we're going to do one. I think the ice fishing thing is one's Friday, one's Saturday. I'm not sure. They're going to be about 90 minutes interactive. But I was in awe the other day when I get a call and he says to me, "Hey, so I got James Lindner, I got Jeremy Smith, and I got Ted Takasaki. Do you want to be the 4th with them? Because we need four guys." So like I'm looking behind myself. Saying, well, yeah, like if I have to, I'll do it. Like it's yeah, and like he told me, he says to me, yeah, he said he mentioned to Jimmy Lindner, he said, like I'll get a fourth guy, and they all say right away, well, get Big Jim. They just that's what they do, and it's just it's amazing to feel that you can be part of guys that are at that level.
Yeah.
So it's so cool. And then this morning I get up and I see a message from Dave Mercer, and my wife said, I said, uh-oh. And she said, what? And I held up the phone. She goes, yeah. I said, you know what this is, don't you? And on my birthday every year, Dave gets his wife and the kids and the dog, and they sing happy birthday to me. They send me a little movie every year, and I got it today again. And I went right back to him and said, well, my day's made now, regardless of what happens.
That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's it's a good day. It's a good day.
And talking about something that I never even thought about it, but when I was reading some of his stuff that people have wrote about him over the years,
mm-hmm.
and it really hit home, as it would be for yourself and the Linders and the Babazumis and what have you. Dave Gens is a pioneer that is able to still be living and see his impact on the industry, much like yourself. No different than yourself. You're sitting back and paying witness to sort of technological advances that obviously you relished during the day and have honed your skills on when it comes to now. But to Dave, when it comes to that whole fish trap and the pullover hut, watching how that evolved and from where it came, like the whole family was involved in it. But what really hit home was being a pioneer, a living pioneer, to see how he has impacted the hard water industry.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing person. It's really funny because when we had this out last week here, I got it sitting on the little table I use here every week, and every time I'm out here, I've been making. Here's what I've been doing this week. I've been making these for a guy.
Wow.
I've made hundreds and hundreds of them. What they are, they're feathered trebles.
Wow.
They go on the back of a rig, and he called me and said, hey, I'm stuck. I need someone to make feathered trebles. But I've been looking through this book, just reading little excerpts and little bits and reading again, and it's really cool how so much is the same. It's just done differently now. Like it's still the process of catching fish has never changed. Like how every week I come on here, I tell people, if you go back to the same point, drill a hole, sit on the bucket, and don't catch a fish every week, I guarantee it, that's what's going to happen next week. And I always say, go walk. Like somebody said to me the other day, you made 3 comments in a row to guys that said they were out fishing and the fishing sucked. And I said to all 3 of them, and the other person just happened to catch them. And what I said to them was, why don't you move? Why don't you move? Why don't you move? You can go to the fish. That's what the whole thing of modern day ice fishing is. Mobility is the number one thing. There's no more having that shack. Remember, they used to drill holes, put 4x4s in, screw the shack to it so it wasn't going anywhere. And there is that. That's gone. That's totally gone.
Yeah.
If to be a modern day angler, we're not talking about somebody going out for some fun on a weekend, renting a shack and sitting in there and having a couple of beers or just ginger ales or whatever you want, frying some hot dogs over the heater, catch a fish. Maybe if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. Yeah. It's all part of the deal. It's just something to do. But it really, ice fishing has grown up.
Yeah.
It has grown up. Just like we know when fishing used to be, you rode the boat out in the lake, you dropped the cement with the rope tied to it over the side, and you sat there for the day. Maybe you caught a fish, maybe you didn't. But next week, you went back to that same spot where you hadn't caught a fish for 3 years, except once you almost caught one, and you did it. And
it's so true. And as Steve reminds us, one of the best quotes I think you've ever uttered and shared here with our CFN community is, stop doing what's not working.
Yeah, it's too simple.
It is absolutely simple.
It's like I was in front of a shop a couple of weeks ago, and this guy pulls up and he was going to get some minnows, and hey, Big Jim, how are you? And he comes over and starts talking to me. And this guy just starts getting all over me, like about this and that. And, well, what about this? And tell me about this. And what did the cops say about COVID? Am I allowed to go fishing? And and he was just ranting and ranting. So I told him what I thought. I said, don't take my word for it. And I told him, be careful on the ice and whatever. And, well, how do you know that? And whatever. And then he looks at me and he says to me, well, why are you arguing with me? And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm not arguing with you. I'm explaining why I'm right. And he looked at me and he sort of leaned back a little bit and he goes, I guess you are, aren't you? Like it was just the way, like the guy was just, anything I said, he just said the opposite. Like if I could have said, well, it's nice and cloudy out today. No, it's not, it's sunny. He was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
The guy was stressed. He just put 17 kids on the school bus.
That's hilarious. Now, going forward, obviously, everybody wants COVID to disappear, but in 2021, what are some of your wishes for this upcoming year?
That I can get in a boat more this year.
Yeah.
I can get in a boat. I've been so excited about my knee this week again. It just seems to be getting better. And I just can't wait to get back in the gym. And hopefully in the next week or two here, maybe it'll happen. I don't know. The COVID cases are virtually gone in Kingston now. I think they have something like 7 or 8 cases now. And we've only had one in 3 days or something. And it was a person like 11 to 20. They can't say the age of the person, name, whatever. It was one person from 11 to 20. They were asymptomatic, basically. Didn't feel good. They tested them. There's nobody else around them got it. But there was 7 or 8 active cases. So we could be done with it again in Kingston shortly. Now, mind you, I live well outside the city. I'm 20 minutes above Kingston. But if it's gone, hopefully, maybe we get to go back in the gym. And because there's, we didn't have any trouble in gyms over this way anyway. So it was the methods that they had in the gym that you had to go through were incredible. And, that's the way it was. But I feel that I'm capable of picking something up and putting it down again.
Good.
I really have that feel where I want to do it. And I'm ready to go because doing those deadlifts is really what puts your body in order. It's the number one thing on the list, eh?
Amen. Keith Duster made an interesting comment. I can't think of a better person to ask than yourself. Have you ever caught a personal best trying something completely different that you've never done before?
Oh, well, I caught a big sturgeon fishing for sturgeon with just the head off a sucker. I'd never done that before. And it's the only sturgeon that I had caught at the time that we'd ever weighed or anything to know what it was. I'd caught a couple of others, but I wasn't sure. But I wanted to use the fleshy part of the fish, and the guy told me, no, it's got to be the head. So I'm not the sturgeon guy. I'm listening to the sturgeon guy. The sturgeon guy told me to put the head on. They cut it right behind the gills, big 5-6 odd hook, put the head on, chucked it out in about 2 minutes, or I was just about getting pulled off the bank. So it's that would probably be about the closest. But what's really cool is when you break your personal best like 3 or 4 times in an afternoon.
And you've done that, on 2 occasions or more than that?
I did it once for sure with garpike, and I did it another time because as the sun came out in the afternoon, and then I had a day. I call it the modern smallmouth era, where I caught 3 smallmouths in a row that are not really my best. The best ones I ever caught were in the Rideau River 25 years ago, muskie fishing, and they were both over, about 7.6, 7.8, that type of thing. And they ate great big giant musky topwater baits, like baits that are like 10 inches long and weigh a pound. Great big things with props and lead weight in the tail to tilt them to get the blades to run and all. Well, we don't, like when I used to be gung-ho on muskies, it's just gone from one species to the next.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck on bluegills.
Well, there's
what
no
it is.
shame in that.
Yeah. But I spent an afternoon in Lake Ontario where I got like a 6:14 in the morning. Then I got like a couple hours later, I got one that was 7:10, and then I got one that was 7:12 on scales. So I think they were 7:10. They were 2 ounces apart anyway, but they were, really, really big fish. So when you do something like that, it's pretty impressive. It makes you feel, especially when you get the biggest one. You're bringing your lure through 5 fish that you can visually see about 10 feet under the surface in open water. You can see them there, and you're looking at them. You're thinking they're all really, really good fish, and the lure is coming through them, and they're probably 5-pounders, which is really nice. And here comes the big black one like a bullet from like 30 feet away, busts right through them and eats my eye prop. And I watched it happen like 20 feet from the boat. Yeah, that was the first or second day I ever fished with eye props. That's like spy baits.
Yeah.
First time. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking
of stuff like that out there, though.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. I know guys that walleye fished last weekend, and they upped themselves two or three times through the ice in an afternoon.
I can't, and when it comes to walleye, I can't believe the harvest going on right now on the Bay of Quinte when it comes to walleye. Holy cow. There's some big fish being caught and a lot of fish. There are a lot of walleye in the Bay right now. Speaking of, celebrated moments, walk us through one of your most favorite moments at a bass tournament where maybe you were trailing and on the last day you won, a special moment or a special fish that you caught. But one thing that we haven't touched on a lot is your tournament days. And here it is on your birthday and celebrating that. What was one of your most celebrated accomplishments on the bass trail, the bass tournament trail?
Well, when I won my second Canadian championship, the first day I had a plan. It was in my mind. I knew exactly where I was going, what I was going to do. 45 minutes after I started the boat to leave, I had the fish.
Wow.
I had caught them. I was leaving the spot. I was not going to touch the spot. I went away from it so nobody would see me there. And I went practicing for the rest of the day. I went to look for new places I'd never been to, in case I could find something else that I would need.
Yeah.
The second day, I went out and I went back to this spot, and I got a guy in the boat, and I really fell into something that was after when I thought about it. It happened to me once in my life. I got involved with a scrutineer to the point where we were chuckling, talking too much, and telling too many stories. And I came in and I had gone from 3rd place to 8th. And I thought, wow, I let something get away. But I was still close enough that I thought I could get back and get maybe 3rd or 4th and get, 10 or 15,000 bucks or whatever it was at the time. I didn't want to go any lower because you'd have been into like, 1,500 bucks and thanks for coming out. So it pays for the week, the gas and hotels and that.
Yeah.
Which is better than nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. And the 3rd day I went out and I really put my mind together. And I went to the spot right away. First thing in the morning, I fished for about 20 minutes, half an hour maybe. I caught one decent fish. It was like maybe 2 3/4 pounds, maybe 2 3/4 pounds. And as soon as I caught it, I said, "That's a sucker. That's a sucker fish. It's going to sucker me in to stay here, and I'm not going to do well." I immediately left. I went to another spot that I knew I could catch fish, maybe not quite that big, but I could catch 2.5 pounders maybe. And I went, and this was when the limit was still 6. And I went and I caught 4 really quick. So now I've got 5 fish. So I still have room for one more. And I'm thinking, I talked to a few guys over a span of 2 or 3 hours. They were all sour-pussed and fishing sucks today. I can't get a bite. I said to myself, I'm leaving Couchiching. And I went out to Lake Simcoe. Away I went. Boom, gone. I was out. I had a couple of spots out there where I thought I could catch some 3-pound smallmouths. I get to the spot. First cast, I catch a 312. So now I just added almost 4 pounds because I still had one fish to go. And the reason I left was, why stay there and try to catch another 2-pounder and take the time? You leave now, you go somewhere else. So if you catch a 2-pounder, you're equal, but you didn't waste the time on that spot. But as it was, the first fish I caught was 312. So it's probably a pound more than I would have got for most of the fish I was going to catch at this spot, which I thought I could have caught, quite easily. And then about 4 or 5 casts later, I catch the big smallmouth you've heard me mention, was almost 6. And that's back when a 3-pounder in Simcoe was a big one.
Yep.
And a 5-pounder was like, wow. And here I've got one that's just a fraction shy of 6. And if I wouldn't have worked my areas and thought about what I was going to do, but I went out on that day with the intent in my mind, after I hit the water, to hell with second or third place. I don't care if I finish 15th. I'm fishing to win. And we always did that. We almost always did that. There had to be a reason to advance somehow where we wouldn't really totally fish to win. We would fish to be sure, to be cautious. And as it was, I went in and I won by 4 ounces.
Wow.
But I won like $85,000. So, it makes for a good weekend, and it's something I never forgot. And to show you the real funny thing about it, that was a Monday night. Tammy was with me. We stayed over. I was pretty beat up too because I've been fishing for 7 days.
Yeah.
And the sun, I was all burned. Did you see the picture recently that was up of me holding the trophy? My face is sunburned. That's sunburned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm cooked. My left hand I can hardly use because I was fishing a crankbait until the last day, almost until noon the last day. I had fished a crankbait for like six days. My hand, right here on my hand, it was like you were looking at meat. You know when you can look under the skin? It was right in the meat. And I had to tape the rod and reel around my arm. And you'd see me driving down the lake in the boat with the rod and reel taped to my hand, holding it. I'd just get the boat on plane and then just steer, like I wasn't rushed to go anywhere. Of course, when I went up to Simcoe, I had to take it off my arm and then tape it back on when I got there. But for other things, but it was so funny. I stayed over. I was beat up big time. And on the way home, to show you the way I was, I woke up at like 4 o'clock. I was in that zone, and everything else. And I'd had copious amounts of alcohol the night before. I didn't feel that good. And I went back to sleep. We got up about 7 o'clock. We went and had breakfast. And we're going to drive home. So we're driving along. I got a boat with me too still, the prize boat and truck and all the other stuff. I had the checks for the big fish and the cash part of it and everything else with me. Next thing you know, I'm almost in Toronto. I missed the turn there where you turn to go to Manila.
Yeah.
The light there at the big hill. I totally missed the turn. I was almost down to Toronto. Never even. I ended up going home by the 401. That's how far down I went.
No.
Like when you're that high from something happening.
Yep, I get it, buddy. I get it.
Fishing. Yeah, that's the number one thing for me is that day. I've had some other things in local tournaments where where the horseshoe stayed in place, and things unfolded as like you didn't think that they were gonna.
Yeah.
But no, definitely that was the biggest day of my life, and that was the second time in 3 years I won that. So it was kind of cool. I had a short span there where I could do no wrong, and that's the way it seems to happen. Hey, you get a 3 or 4 year thing. I think I won. In the 10 years I fished tournaments, I won 29 tournaments, so I averaged 3 a year. And I think that span of those 3 years, I think there was like 15 of them. Yeah, so it was a good time. It was a really, really good time in my life.
Well, listen, Jim, on behalf of our entire CFN community, thanks so much for sharing that story and all of your accomplishments.
My pleasure.
And dude, you are definitely a winner in our eyes when it comes to how the community has received you and continues to receive you. And on behalf of all of us, we want to wish you a happy birthday, my friend.
Woohoo! I wish I still drank. If I still drank, I would have already been passed out twice today and at it again.
Right on. Jim, till next Monday, cheers to you, buddy. All the best. Stay healthy, and we'll see you in 7 days, my friend.
Yes, sir. Be safe out there, guys. And don't go fish in the same spot.
Exactly. Take care. Here's a word from our sponsor. Yeah, baby. Lawrence Gunther in the house. I'll tell you, nothing makes me want to go fishing more than that video itself.
I'm proud to be associated with such upbeat music.
See,
I have no idea what's in the image.
That was listen, the bar was set very high because it's Big Jim's birthday, and I thought, you know what? We need to come into Lawrence's segment with a bit of an up, and I can't think of a better video to do that. So, Lawrence, welcome to the show, my friend. As always, each Monday you share all kinds of great knowledge, and you're here today, as always, to talk about issues that are concerning to anglers, concerning to our angling community, and offer some hints, tips, tricks, or even techniques to help us in our next outing. And depth. You chose depth as the topic for today, and the importance of depth and how it may influence how we target fish.
I think it's not a black and white question, right? I mean, this is something there's various elements and variations and considerations when you're talking about fishing at depth. And we should get into that, because either, people either say, oh, you can do it or you shouldn't do it. And it's not that black and white.
Mm-hmm. It's not. And it really has a lot to do with the species of fish that you're targeting, as well as what you are aiming to accomplish. Because some anglers are going out because they want to catch dinner. They want to get a shore lunch. Maybe they haven't had fish in a while. So they're going to target fish at all depths. Perhaps some of us who are true sportsmen are going out to target a species of fish, let's say walleye, and we won't get below a certain threshold in order to ensure that we're able to release that fish. So, in hopes of catching that trophy and holding that wicked fish pick, we won't go to the depths that we should, because perhaps it may have detrimental harm to the fish.
It's called barotrauma. It results when the swim bladder, it's the bag of air that the fish has in its body, just behind its throat, and they can put air into it and take air out of it, but it's a very slow process. It's a very, very slow process. And it gives the fish the ability to reach neutral buoyancy. Neutral buoyancy is a term in scuba, and it means you're suspended at a certain depth. With the scuba, you have a vest and it's connected to your oxygen tank, your air tank, and you have a valve. So you can constantly be adding and releasing air in your vest, so that, say, if you're down at 20 feet, you can add a little bit of air. As you're descending, you want to stop descending, so you add a little air. You reach that neutral buoyancy, so you don't always having to swim up to stay or swim down to stay down. You want to keep at that neutral buoyancy because it's easier on your ears. Then if you want to go down a little deeper, you let some air out, but you have to do this really slowly. Even with your do scuba, you have to do it very slowly. You can't rush up and down. That's when you get into trouble, right? So, and we can burp and we can chew and we can release air in our body, but you still have to do it very slowly. fish, they don't have that ability. They don't have a valve on their swim bladder to release air in and out, except for a handful, like lake trout and salmon. Salmon, when you're reeling them up on the downrigger and they're coming up and you see those bubbles as the fish is getting 10, 20 feet below the surface. There's some bubbles, and they say, and they'll always say, oh, it's just burped up some air. So they can release that air in their swim bladders. But all the other species of fish we're targeting in Canada, pretty much, it's not possible.
So is it possible, Lawrence, for you to explain the science of it? Because at one point it was explained to me that basically that pressure is the weight of the water above you. So the deeper you go in a water column, the more weight it adds. And what it's trying to do is push that air out of you. It's trying to void you of all air because of the weight, the actual gravity and weight of water on top of you.
So the science is that it doubles at 3 feet. The surface temperature, atmospheric pressure at sea level is zero pressure. We're used to that, right?
Yeah.
You go down 3 feet, it doubles. So it's twice the pressure. So even if you're in a swimming pool and so you dive down to the bottom of even an above ground pool, you'll feel your ears sort of pop a little bit because you're doubling the water pressure already. You're doubling the atmospheric pressure at 3 feet. It doubles again at 9 feet. So, double 3, 9. So then you got 3 times the amount of water atmospheric pressure. It doubles again at 81 feet. And then after that, you're down to about 1,000 feet before it doubles again. So it doesn't just double every 3 feet. But having said that, that still makes a lot of difference, right? Like as a person doing scuba, you can get down to 100 feet. And I've been down that deep using scuba. And, you just have to take your time going down and coming back up. And you can do it. But like I said, we can release this pressure in our vests, in our dive vests. The fish, they have this bubble inside them, and they just adjust that constantly so they're not flying up and down. But if they don't get to adjust it and you bring that fish up, the balloon expands because the pressure is released. So if you catch it at 9 feet and you bring it up to 3 feet, you've just released the pressure on that balloon by like a half, right? So it expands. So, but they can manage that. But if you get it down to 27 feet, they say 30 feet, that little bit extra is the big change. It's when it's 25 feet. Some people say 25 feet is probably about as deep as you should go. So it's maybe 2.5 times atmospheric pressure. But they say that past that, anything past that, when you bring that fish up, the swim bladder expands and expands. What it does is it pushes the esophagus out the throat. So that's not the stomach coming out the throat. That's the esophagus coming out. It's the throat itself being pushed out of the fish's mouth. The eyes bulge out of the head. The fins get red. And once you see those signs, that means blood vessels have ruptured behind the eyes, in the fins. You're causing potential organ damage in the fish with that esophagus coming out. Popping that esophagus, that throat is not the answer. You have to, if you're thinking about fizzing, you got to really take a course. And I'll tell you, before you take a course, you got to look at the needle you're going to be using, right? This is a 17 gauge needle here. I got one, and I'll just hold it up here in front of this piece of paper so you get a better look. Tell me if you can see the size of that needle. Should I come a little closer? Yeah,
I see it.
So that's a 17 gauge needle, right? That's as thick as an ink cartridge in a pen, right? That's a huge needle, right? This is not just a little needle pick, that we get a vaccination with. This is a sizable needle. You use a little needle, it's never going to work. It just clogs up. Nothing comes out. You need to shove this big needle in on from the side. I don't want to tell you, there's a process for doing it, and then you poke the bladder. Hopefully you don't hit a kidney on the way in, because that'll kill the fish for sure.
I was just going to say that before we get into all that, because there's a couple things that we could do that can help when it comes to the retrieval of that fish. And sometimes fish have a habit, once they're hooked, they go crazy and they'll go into the shallow water all on their own. They'll dive right to the surface. Mm-hmm. In some cases, in most cases, fish will dog and they'll try to stay deep, and for a bunch of reasons. One, they don't like the boat above them. They're hooked, they're panicking, what have you. But in a lot of cases, it's based on pressure. Can you lessen the damage to a fish the slower you reel him from the depths that you caught him?
No, there's
You
only lake trout and salmon. They have to be brought up slowly, and then so they have a chance to burp out that gas. But all the other species can't do it. But you're right, like a smallmouth bass could be 30 feet down. You've got a surface lure on a jerk bait, and it shoots up and slams that jerk bait, but it's planning on heading right back down again, right? Full steam head, full strength. It wants that food. It's going to shoot up, grab it, and swim back down with it. But if you've got that jerk bait and you catch a fish that just shot up 30 feet from the bottom and grab your jerk bait, and you keep it at the surface, it doesn't have a chance to get down. You tire that fish out, you bring it to the boat, you unhook the fish. The pressure is starting to now work against that fish, right? It's starting to, things are starting to bulge, blood vessels are starting to burst. And then you let that fish go. It no longer has the strength because you've just used up the strength of that fish, getting it into the net. So you let it go, it swims down 3 feet. It can't get down any further because the bladder keeps pushing it back up. So it pops back up and then it goes back down again. And you think, oh, it's going down. It's going to be fine. And you move on. But it's not. Like that chance of that fish getting down are pretty slim. And even if it does eventually manage to get down, if it's caught below 30 feet, there's like, an over 50% chance it will die in 24 hours. Yeah.
You're 100% right. And Erica mentioned that Mark did a video segment on fizzing, and a great job he did, I might add. But, as Jason has mentioned here, you could do an entire show on this. And you're 100% right, Jay, as always. But when it comes to fizzing, there are definitely some do's and don'ts. And the one thing I will suggest to anyone who doesn't understand the biology of fish or where organs are in specific species of fish, do not perform fizzing. You could do far more harm than good. What may seem like a good intention could go drastically wrong for the fish. So,
but if you're fishing a bass tournament and you're catching bass down 40, 50 feet on the St. Lawrence River in super cold water, and you're bringing those fish up, and you're fizzing them and you're keeping them in cold water, and then they're weighed in cold water, and then they're brought back out and released in cold water. These are trained. These anglers have taken training from biologists to do this sort of thing, right? Fin clips, they just keep a fish from flipping upside down. If it just looks like it's, a fish upside down, get a little stressed out. So you put them in your live well with these fin clips. They're little weights that clip to the fin. You're not addressing the barotrauma. You're just making it look nice. It's just lipstick on the pig at that point. So the other thing is, people will talk about catch, photograph, release, right? There's something to be said about catch, photograph, release, because if you're catching your 5 biggest fish and you're photographing them, and then you're sitting out on top of a school of walleye that are down 50 feet and you're hooking, you hook 20, 30 of them and bring them to the surface, and you're measuring them and you're taking photographs of them with a view to keeping the big ones, there's a good chance you can bring them up, take a picture of them without them showing serious signs of barotrauma, release them, and there's a good chance that many of them will have problems. If you had to take that fish into shore for a real weigh-in and put it in your live well, by the time you got back to the weigh-in station, that fish would probably be dead, right? Unless you fizzed it. So I've seen this happen where people, they'll sit all over a school of walleye that are down 40, 50 feet, just plug away at them and try to get the big ones for the tournament and release all the rest, and thinking, well, I'm doing catch and release. No, you're just killing fish to win a trophy at that point, right? And no one's watching. No one's watching because you're just out there on your own with your buddy or whatever. So it's like trolling in the Bay Quint. You see these downriggers on these boats, and they're saying, oh, I'm only trolling my lures. I got my downriggers down 25 feet. But then behind that, they've got a diving lure that goes down another 15 feet. So now they're down 40 feet. And then they're marking a school at 60 feet down, and they're trolling over the top of that. And those fish are going up from 60 to 40 to grab that lure. And then you're reeling them up to 0. So now you've just pulled a fish in from 60 feet down, but you're saying to your guests on the boat, well, my downriggers are set to 25 feet. So, we're okay. No, you're not. Those fish are down 50, 60 feet. You see them on the marker. Let's not play games here, right? There's 100 ways to play games, but in the end, catch fish. If you want to catch fish and keep them and eat them, nothing wrong with that. Fish whatever depth you want. But if you're planning on letting them go and you want them to go back healthy, then think twice. Like you see those schools within your fish finder down 40 feet, and you want to go after them. Just move on. There's somewhere else. You'll find them somewhere else.
Absolutely. And, there's a couple people that I want to mention, for instance, Chasing Eye Charters and Captain Ed McKenzie. He won't fish below 40 feet. In fact, he mostly runs a lot of his stuff between the 30 and 35 mark, because anything deeper than 40 feet bait, you're basically killing that fish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, you can fizz it. There's ways that you can release it in ways that will increase its chances of survival. But as a practice, Ed would never target fish deeper than 40 feet. Another really interesting thing is our buddy Mike Brazeau from Horwood Lake Lodge. And this is really cool. His anchors in his guest boats only have a 30-foot rope attached to the anchor. So if you're going to try and Mike takes it that extra step when it comes to conservation, and he has a vested interest in doing so, because of course he needs to protect his walleye fishery so that his guests have lots of walleye to enjoy when they come. And as I said, Mike is a pioneer on that lake when it comes to setting a standard for all anglers and outfits and resorts to follow. But I tell you, when it comes to ingenious ideas, keep it simple. 30-foot rope on an anchor, that seems pretty straightforward to me.
Now that this is becoming more and more commonly understood as an issue for fish. Bringing fish down from the cold and bringing them up to the warm water, 58 degrees down deep, and then releasing them at 80 degrees at surface temperature. Big problems in the summer for some species in the Great Lakes. And even in Florida, right? When they're fishing off wrecks and you're getting grouper down 100 feet, 150 feet. Now, Florida has said, look, if you're going to fish these wreck fish and certain species of fish, you have to have a descending device aboard your boat, and you have to be using it, it could be a box, or it could be a clip with a weight, and then you clip it onto the fish's lower jaw and you just drop it in. It pulls the fish back down to the depth where you caught it, and then there's another string that you pull and release the clip, and the fish is down there. Voila. And they've just passed that law in the last several months in Florida to make that a mandatory fishing accessory. And they're hoping that's gonna the guides are okay with that. The guides get that, right? They get that, and they want everyone to use it because this is their living, and no one's going to make a living as if everyone goes out and kills the fish, pretending to let them go.
One place that just recently I paid witness to the care when it comes to releasing fish was up at Tazen Lake. We were catching some absolute giant lake trout. And of course, lake trout, as you know, will burp themselves. But, sometimes they come up a little bit too quick. They're under stress, and even lake trout that can expel air still need that extra bit of care when it comes to releasing them, because, as you said, the deeper you go, the colder the water. And all of a sudden now you're trying to revive a cold water species fish in warm water. So it doesn't necessarily work. And we had to use some unique ideas on how to get some of those fish down. And that whole idea about the weight clip was something that came to mind on several occasions when we caught a couple decent sized fish. But to hear that it's actually mandatory now in Florida, that's interesting.
Yeah, a little tip on the water temperature. Even a foot below the surface, the water temperature can drop significantly. So if you're dealing with a fish that's struggling a little bit because of warm conditions, it's struggling trying to get its blood back, hold it, roll up your sleeves, grab that fish, and get it a foot under the water. Hold it down there a foot below the surface, and it's going to make a big difference. There's more oxygen. Water's much cooler a foot down, 18 inches. You'll feel it with your hands, much more oxygen rich, and it's going to make a huge difference in terms of how fast that fish will recover. We're not talking barotrauma here so much, but that whole temperature issue, right?
And Jason Barnucz put a great link here in the comments in regards to some of the work that Rebecca Eberts has done for the Saskatchewan Sportfish Research Program. I believe it was her graduate research topic was barotrauma. So there's a link.
Jason.
Yeah, so there's a link there for you to go if you want to know more But when it comes to fizzing, there's lots of YouTube videos out there. What I would suggest is, like Alicia has mentioned and a few others, if you want to learn how to fizz a fish, get an expert to teach you, especially when it comes to species specific, because it's not necessarily the same spot in all fish. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And then, and then the smaller fishes, the smaller the fish, the trickier it's going to get, right? The room for error goes way down. So you're catching a bunch of 12, 14-inch walleye, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Absolutely. Now, feel the bite segment.
Man.
I have never heard of blue tips. What is a blue tip?
BLUETIPZ. So there's a guy in the States, an angler in the States. He came up with this idea, for your cell phone, and then he expanded it. This is a blue tips here, right? It's about the size of a Bic lighter. It's got an LED light on the top. It's got you hear that rattle.
Yeah.
So that is the little mercury switch in there. And then it's got an on-off switch. And then if you want, you can, so this clips, this little clip here, clips onto the flag of your tip up. You clip it on the flag, folds down, right? So now it's in the down position. I'm going to turn it on, put that on. Then I got the extra receiver here for my pocket. I'm going to turn that on. So now this receiver, I can run, I think 4 blue tips on this receiver. So it'll tell me which one is going off. I just look at the receiver here. So the flag hits, the flag goes up. Oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
All right. The light goes off on the top. So it's at nighttime. You can find it. Right.
Wow.
And then it tells you here which number it was, which number your tip up's going off. Right. So you turn this on and reset it. All right. I'll reset and I'll just shut this off again. So that is a blue tips, right? You could sit in your ice hut. You can set these up on your tip ups outside, sit in your ice hut. And I've done those, where I'm sitting in the ice hut jigging, and I have it on my iPhone, and I pick a tune that I want to set to, and all of a sudden my phone starts playing music, and everyone's going, "Lawrence, you got a phone call. Lawrence, your phone's ringing. Lawrence, phone call." And I'm zipping up my coat, and I go, "Nope, I got a fish." Run out the door.
That is so cool. I don't know, like maybe I'm alone, but I have never seen that.
Oh yeah, it's not that expensive. Like, you don't need this. This is nice, because you don't have to run down your cell phone batteries, and the batteries on this last forever. And this here, these are like $25 kind of thing, and again, batteries last forever, because how many days a year are you ice fishing with these things? So very true. They really last. It's a great little investment. They're fantastic. A lot of fun. Something else for the kids to play with, right? They set up the tip ups, put their Bluetooth, transmitters on them. You load it on your iPhone, and then they can watch the phone, and then, oh, Dad, it's number 3. And then they, right away they know where number 3 is. So it just gives a whole new dimension. And I think too, the chances of a fish spooling you or getting deep hooked because you're not paying attention, you're not watching your flag, right? It goes way down. So this means the chance of a fish getting away or getting itself hurt because you're not, paying attention to your tip up, go way down. You're responding immediately. No matter where you are, you're getting that signal right away, and you can deal with the fish. And that fish just bit, right? So you're right on it. It's a lot of fun. It really brings some immediacy to ice fishing, and just another element.
Where would someone go to get this? I've never seen this. I've seen sort of facsimiles of that, but that is ingenious.
Sail Outdoors is carrying them. I've seen them there on the pins on the racks there. They've had them, or just Google blue tips, TIPZ, and he's selling them right off his website there. But you have to get them across the border, right? So that's always a challenge. USPS is better than UPS, that's for sure, when you're trying to ship anything across from the United States.
Oh, and Mike Howard, he knows a thing or two about them. He says, just don't store the batteries in them. They can control the devices, so make sure you take the batteries out. And Jason just mentioned that Deep Freeze Fishing sells them, and there is the internet link So if you guys are looking to purchase some blue tips, that is where you go, and it is a wireless transmitter smartphone notification. That is so cool.
Yeah, very cool, eh? Very cool. I love it. I love it. You know, it just gives me that little advantage over my buddies who don't have them, and they're bugging me. Lawrence, can I borrow that? Or where do we get that? You know?
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Any updates on any of your previous stories? Anything in regards to what's going on with the coal mining out in Alberta? Have you heard anything new?
Lots of twists and turns on that still. The general consensus is, with the articles I've been reading since we did that feature in the January 25th edition of the Bluefish News, is that it's not a legitimate withdrawal by the Alberta government. They call it a pause. Well, they can sort out, you know, how to make everyone happy, but they're not backing down. They're not backing down yet. They're riding it out. They're riding it out, and they're hoping to tough through this storm and continue on. Jeez. So, so the game's still on. The game is still on, unfortunately, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, I was just listening to this senator from West Virginia, and you know, that's the big coal mine. That's exactly where they do this kind of coal mining on mountaintops. And they said, you know what, that's just the cost of mining coal and the value of coal, it's just not worth it anymore. And they're just shutting those mining operations down in West Virginia. They're just closing them down one by one. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And here we are, you know, going in the opposite direction. So what's that tell you?
Absolutely. I tagged you in a post this week too, in regards to, I think it may have been Richard Dunlop who had shared it to me or tagged me in it. And I tagged you as well in regards to some of the cage culturing that's going on our West Coast, that it sounds as if they might be getting rid of it, that it may no longer be allowed. Yeah.
The Liberal government made a promise to get rid of it by 2025. It looks like they've already agreed to this in a big chunk of British Columbia. They've said that in this area, the leases will no longer be renewed. The mayor of Vancouver, he's on side with this. You know, some people are saying, well, hey, we're going to lose jobs here. We're going to lose some good jobs. But, you know, how do you weigh against some jobs? And jobs are definitely important things. But the negative impacts, man, of those jobs is just so tremendous, right? And we have so much science now showing that it's bad. And by supporting this with government subsidies and grants, we're just delaying the inevitable. I mean, when you have 75 companies, you know, developing around the world these onshore salmon hatcheries, like the one that just opened up in Miami, I mean, that's just massive, right? And that's just the first one. So going on ground with these, you know, you can keep it in a sterile environment. No pesticides, no lice, no antibiotics required. Everything's filtered and cleaned. The fish waste gets turned into fertilizer. These are pristine fish, right, that are raised in ideal conditions. You know, it's organic, it's organic food. So I mean, it's just perfect food raised in ideal conditions versus the sludge fests that these fish have to put up with in these little back bays and river mouths out of the way of the storms, because you put these cage out where the water gets a little rough, man, and these cages collapse, and it happens over and over again. So yeah, it's a story for sure. One thing I just did the interview on last Friday, and we're talking to the CEO of Ocean Tracking Network. It's a Canadian organization, Ocean Tracking Network, and he's also the chairman of the Canadian River Initiative, all out of universities in Eastern Canada. So I contacted them. I said, okay, rivers, oceans, you're tracking all these fish. Let's talk fish. So I got him online, and we went through, where are the Atlantic salmon going these days? And we just went down the list. Arctic char, striped bass. And what about those smallmouth bass and muskie invasives? What's going on with those guys? And then we got into some of the other fish species, like northern cod. Are they coming back or not? What's going on with cod? And then we started getting into the horrible sharks and the blue sharks. And of course, the great whites and the green sharks. And where are they? Should I be taking my swim fins out to Nova Scotia when I go play on the beach next time or not?
It's amazing, actually. The more I look at some of the stuff that's going on with great white migration, I know it's a protected species, and for obvious reasons, I get it. But they are starting to show up in some interesting places now. I don't know if it's just because the reporting is more accessible than before. Who knows? But you're starting to see them in the Gulf of Mexico, which I don't believe that that's commonplace for them. They're certainly starting to show up on our East Coast in larger numbers. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see what's happening with our fisheries and how whatever it may be, global warming, ocean currents, what have you, how the fish are being distributed and dispersed.
Well, in the case of the great whites, it's mainly because their favorite food stack is back, the seals, right? We stopped culling seals. The government stopped paying people to kill seals. We for decades, we paid fishers a head, to kill seals because it was thought that seals were killing the fish. So we kill the competition off, literally. And that's what we did for decades. And then the seal population dropped down to almost nothing. And then the white sharks said, well, there's nothing to eat here. And they left. Now the seals are back in the millions. And the sharks are going, hey, good. Oh, the best food's up in Canada. Meet you up there. And they're back.
Oh, Mike Hoover, that's a great. I think we're all in the same boat. I want to see the blue walleyes make a comeback. Absolutely. I agree. Talk about a rare fish that there's conflicting reports on whether they still exist, whether they're completely extinct. What some people mistakenly call them as blue walleye. But nonetheless, man, I tell you, they were in Lake Erie by the hundreds of thousands, but they are no longer. What's upcoming, Lawrence, on your podcast this week?
Well, that's going to be our next one. We've got that guy, that professor coming out with all the fish tracking information and some really cool insights. I mean, we got to know so much about these fish and their behaviors, and some of it's not very pleasant, that's for sure. And then we got an interview coming up also with an expert on Lake Superior. What's going on in Lake Superior? That's going to follow. So, yep, next week the news is out, my friend. The news will be out next Monday, a week today. The first issue for February of the Bluefish News with the latest Bluefish Radio episode. And if you want something to do in the meantime, check out my podcast, Outdoors with Lawrence Gunther. Outdoors with Lawrence Gunther. It's all about ice fishing blind.
Right on, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us, as you do each and every Monday, and fill us with all kinds of facts and good stories and some things that maybe perhaps we've never seen before, like the blue tips. The blue tips. I think that's awesome, buddy. Thanks so much, bud. You have a great week. Stay safe, eh?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right on, dude. And here is a word for Jason's sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Where's the birthday boy? Now, Jay, there's a heck of an echo. I noticed that there's two streams. I'm seeing you've piped in on two separate streams. It's the same camera angle, but perhaps that's maybe where the echo's coming from.
You know what? How's that?
Bingo bango, buddy.
Got it.
Right on, dude. So you weighed in quite heavily with a lot of what Lawrence was saying. Obviously, barrel trauma is a hotly contested issue, and people, as you mentioned, Becca Eberts have devoted a lot of time to. And give us your summation and maybe some things that will help us to make sure that we don't stress our fish too much.
If you really want to get into it, I would read the publication that I posted from Becca, her part of her graduate work. I think she did 3 publications.
Yeah.
And that one that I posted, a lot of her work was really cool because it was actually on walleye, not bass. And so at the time that I was actively working on bass barotrauma work in the Great Lakes, she was doing the work with Saskatchewan Sport Fishing Research and University of Saskatchewan, which we had a young gentleman. What was his name again? Riley?
Ruco.
Like,
yeah,
you know, so that program has been pumping out some great fisheries science folks for years, and Becca's grad work was big in that. And you know, walleye are hard to fizz. It's been done. They're a lot harder to fizz than bass. She recommends using descending devices to get them back down to pressure. So, you know, there's just the big thing about barotrauma is sometimes we have to just not fish certain things in certain places at certain times. And it's about making proper choices. A great example, ice fishing, is crappie. And there's a lot of people out there who, and myself included, I love fishing for crappie. I don't like fishing for them in deep basins. And there's enough data out there and there's enough experts on this where basically if you catch a crappie from 40 feet of water, they will probably not survive being released. They can't handle it. And now if you're going to eat it, fine, but you could decimate the population in a small lake. Does that make sense? So sometimes we have to just make choices about what lakes we're going to fish and what species we're going to fish for. So that's, you know, and again, I made a kind of a joke, but not really. We could do an entire show on fish care, barotrauma, and things like that. And I've done some great work with some great people on it that have taught me. Like, I didn't know, even though I work with fish for a living and fish biology is kind of what I do, until someone showed me how to fizz a bass properly, probably 20 years ago, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just making a pincushion out of a smallmouth, right? So,
well,
yeah.
You know, and it's big on you to own, because absolutely we've all made a mistake or two when it comes to fish handling or what we thought may have been a good idea at the time. But yeah, no, absolutely. And when it comes to fish care, like for instance, I shared a video of a gentleman, I think it was Kyle, and I can't pronounce his last name. He caught a mammoth perch. The thing looked like a football. And right away somebody jumped and said, you know, why did he gill that fish? Why did he put his fingers in the gill? And absolutely. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, as long as we can keep our fingers and hands away from the gill plates of these fish, the better off we are. He held it for only a few seconds to lift it up to then support it with his second hand. But absolutely, you're 100% right that it would probably be a good idea, perhaps, maybe if we spent some time on it, Jay.
Yeah.
So that when we go to edit photos, when we go to help promote your catch, we can do so in, you know, a good way that takes all of the emphasis or puts all the emphasis on fish care and fish handling. Yeah.
And, you know, I think, you know, the other night on Ladies Night, you know, we got some great tips on fish photography. And I think that was a segment that we could expand on with, you know, I'm not a photographer, but let's do that, Scotty. If we could combine fish photography with fish care, so get the best of both, we could really make some headway. And people aren't handling fish poorly because they want to. They're out fishing. If they want to let the fish go, it's all good intention. So let's educate and let's not belittle them, because that's what happens. And man, this COVID has just brought people out angry. There's angry people out there, man, and they're just. I saw this meme this week where it's like this little kid like asking for help, and then like fishing groups is like this big adult like yelling at them, because there's just such negativity out there right now that everyone be calm. We have too much time in front of a screen, even though I'm happy everyone's here tonight listening to us, but You know, and by the way, I didn't decorate. Heather decorated for Jim because she said it was Jim's birthday. So we got out the birthday stuff for Jim.
I see that, and Fernando Sousa and Alicia are a little creeped out at the necklace you're wearing. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Hey, it's almost Fat Tuesday. Mardi Gras has been canceled, so let's keep right on rolling. Okay, so
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
Speaking of a topic that I mentioned at the outset, you know, the do's and don'ts when it comes to hard water. Cameron Tate reached out to me today, and he wanted me to emphasize the need when you guys are in your huts to make sure that you have your carbon monoxide detectors, especially if you're producing heat from obviously a fossil fuel.
Listen, I'm dropping 2 things in the chat room right now. One is the Global News article about that couple that just passed away. Okay. And it's important that we all understand. And there are some YouTube videos out there that suggest that buddy heaters and certain types of heaters don't produce lethal amounts of carbon monoxide. Let's be safe than sorry. Okay. So I live in a house that we have carbon monoxide detectors, and I hope we never have to use them. I hope it never goes off, but when it does, we're protected. So I put a post in there, and there is it's a portable carbon monoxide detector. If you're doing any kind of camping, you need to make sure that you're bringing that with you if you're using a heat source, okay? Especially something with fuel, propane, naphtha, doesn't matter. Any kind of heater that's burning a fossil fuel, you need to have that carbon monoxide detector. So just buy I even think if you're in an ice hut, like, hey man, I'm a big guy. I don't like being in a little place for too long. I like to open up my ice hut once in a while and get some fresh air. Heck, I like to fish outside in the fresh air as much as possible. But I've been in -25, -30 weather in a little ice shelter with my buddy heater cranking all day. I get a headache sometimes, and it could be from the buddy heater, might not be. But I think if you're going to be in a poorly ventilated area, bring that little device with you. God knows, Scotty, how much crap do you bring with you ice fishing? Like, I can barely pull it. I bring so much stuff. Okay, so what's one more thing?
And really, at the end of the day, they're so compact. They're not that big. They're not a lot.
No.
You can, you know, they have Velcro. They have sticky pads. You can stick it to the inside of your hut. You can stick it to the inside of your tackle box. I mean, as I said, numerous ways to make them not so impeding and a nuisance, because really at the end of the day, it's about saving your life. And
it is. So, big shout out to Cameron for posting that today.
Yeah.
I shared it on Instagram and Facebook as soon as I saw it, because I had just seen the news article. I get a lot of updates from media that I subscribe to, just because I like to hear what's going on in the fishing world. And sometimes the news we get isn't always good news. But speaking of news, I want to jump to ice fishing. And this past weekend was chaos. Chaos, man.
Yeah.
Lake Simcoe has proven to be a chaotic place once again. Vehicles going through the ice, ATVs going through the ice. But there's some positive in this, and I want to share this. So I want to make sure I get it right. So Alex and Marina from Triple H Huts near Brecken. Okay, never met these people. I've never met these people, but I'm going to share their Facebook page in the chats. Triple H Huts. I want everyone to go to their Facebook page tonight and leave a comment thanking Alex for his updates. He was doing video updates of the ice breakups in Brecken area all weekend when that wind changed. And I'm gonna come out and say it. I think that Alex's video updates on Instagram and Facebook might have saved people's lives this weekend.
I was just going to say that, and it's great to see the number of views that it got, because the message is getting out. And at the end of the day, you're 100% right, Jay. And I don't want to point out the obvious, because as you said, this is not the platform for that. We're not here to belittle people or berate them or whatever. But yeah, I had to scratch the head when I'm seeing vehicles go through. There are numerous videos, and perhaps maybe people don't have Facebook or they're not on social media. That might be the case. But how many outfitters have you seen go out with spud bars and show you that you might have 4 inches here, 3 feet away, one swing of the bar, and it's through because it's less than an inch? Every day we've been seeing these videos. And when I started to hear that vehicles were going through the ice,
So I was out ice fishing on Saturday, and a article came up, and we own a black Toyota Sienna minivan, okay? And there was a picture of a black Sienna minivan being pulled out of the ice at Lake Simcoe. So I said it to Heather. Didn't leave any explanation, just said, and there's this black van, and it's like the same year as our van. It's like a 2015, 2016. Right away, she's like, tell me that's not our van. I said, no, I'm not even near Lake Simcoe right now, but I had to send it because I looked at it and I'm like, holy shit, that's our van. Sorry, pardon my French. But I read it and I'm like, who's driving? And everyone out there can make minivan jokes all you want. There's lots of 4x4 trucks that were through the ice on Simcoe this weekend. So you can make all the jokes you want. No one should be driving on Lake Simcoe this year, please. Like, and I get it. There's parking tickets. There's nowhere to park. Like, there's a reason why I don't fish Lake Simcoe as much as I used to, because the whole logistics of trying to fish there kind of hurts my brain a little bit. But let's all just help each other and be smart and do things. Like, just be smart about it, guys. This weekend was chaos.
That video, I guarantee you, definitely saved lives. And his when it came to how that ice was. And I mean, did any anglers get stranded that you know of, Jay?
I didn't hear of any. Now let's jump all the way from Lake Simcoe to Lake St. Clair, because there were anglers who got stranded. Okay, so now from what I've pieced together, the people have been out on Mitchell's Bay and down towards St. Luke's area, which is just south of Mitchell's Bay. And now from what I've pieced, there's two stories going on, and I don't know for sure what the stories are, but one thing that happened was the ice broke up and it opened up a huge pressure crack that was like kilometers long. Now I've heard two stories. Heard one, it was an east wind, and two, I heard that someone went out in an airboat and caused this crack to happen. So either way, doesn't matter. You know, what's good about Mitchell's Bay situation is there was a lot of people who basically were stranded, but they were able to get back to shore and get back safely. I heard a couple people had to be retrieved by helicopter, but everyone else was able to walk and get back safely. So it ended positively, but we're in such dire need to go out. But like where I live, I can't believe people were out fishing Lake St. Clair when I heard on the weekend. I'm like, really? Like, I don't know, man. It can't be more than 4 inches of ice out there. And I heard there's ATVs out there. And I'm not saying, you know, people can do what they want. I'm not saying they're being too risky, but it just, I think we're just being a little too quick here sometimes. Does that make sense?
Well, and listen,
I'm not trying to pass judgment.
No, you're right. And you know, Jim and I have talked about it at great length, because let's face it, you know, one of the things that we are promoting here during this whole COVID thing is the fact that they haven't shut down angling. And we want to encourage people to go there. And people are chomping at the bit because they're buying stuff left, right, and center to the point where the stores don't have any more stock. So we know they're arming themselves to get ready for the hard water season. And they're, as I said, they're getting frustrated because as badly as they want it to come, it is taking its sweet arse time. And unfortunately,
what I worry about is these situations like tow trucks and all these things like EMS. They have other things to be doing. It takes, you know, an EMS person right now these are considered our frontline people. Okay. And when they go to a call, they have to do a bunch of extra things to deal with this pandemic on top of dealing with keeping people safe and rescuing people. It could be a firefighter, it could be an ambulance driver, it could be anyone. In the end, what we have to be aware of is if all of these ice fishing as an example, if all of these situations begin to put a strain on our EMS people, what I fear is that municipalities might start closing access points because it's one less thing. That's how municipalities deal with uncertainty. And we saw it last spring, Scotty, when they closed the boat ramps, right?
Absolutely.
So let's just, you know, let's as anglers and outdoor people take a breath. There's a lot of people out fishing. I think we must have record numbers. I see pictures of videos and pictures on social media of like lineups of people going ice fishing, which is great. It makes me happy to see that. but we just have to be aware that all of this puts strain on our system, and we don't need any more strain on our system than we have. And let's just be smart about being in the outdoors.
That right here, all EMS are burned out right now, and thank them for what they are doing, and all frontline.
So true, Sarah. So true.
Absolutely. Why put undue stress? Now, just to get a little bit of a chuckle, and I like what David put here. Again, I don't like to play light to what was going on Lake St. Clair, but I hope those who fish Lake St. Clair carry their passports. And I guess I never even thought of that. But if the ice were to break up and you were to cross the border, do you need them?
I heard on the weekend, U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard was called.
Wow.
There was some, fishermen, anglers, fisherwomen. Man, we pushed too hard sometimes. And so they got out there far enough that who knows where they were in terms of the border. Now, the U.S. border on Lake St. Clair is pretty far to the west. It's basically right down the shipping lane. Most of Lake St. Clair is Canadian. I'm going to say 70% of the lake is in Canada. But, there's Cameron. Thanks, Cameron. But, yeah, like if you're fishing border waters, I'm not too worried about drifting over to the U.S. waters from Mitchell's Bay, but it could happen. It could happen. So, there Sarah says both Coast Guards were there. So.
No, obviously, no ice report is a safe ice report. The only way to truly judge is to go out and experience it and spud it yourself.
Yeah.
Is there any way, because of course there's travel involved, and I totally understand when somebody is putting up a question about ice reports. I totally get why they're doing it. Is there any one particular area you would suggest that they could do? Should they reach out to you? Should they reach out to the OPP? Is there anyone that they can speak to that they're not going to be shamed in asking?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me. I've actually had people, I kind of chuckled. I actually had people reach out and ask if I would offer to be a guide for them to go ice fishing. And I said, as much as that's flattering, it's also like not the year. A lot of my guide friends and your guide friends, they're not even guiding this year because of COVID, like trying to navigate that. So what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to direct people to, okay, well, where do you live and how far are you willing to travel? Because technically there is no travel ban. I'm not going to tell someone to drive to, Barrie from Mississauga, let's say, but I'm going to say, pick the lake you want to go to. Call an outfitter. And if you're not sure of an outfitter on a certain lake, like I'm pretty quick at finding that kind of stuff. And so through messaging, through either Instagram messaging or on Facebook, I've been linking people up with outfitters. Now, whether they're actually using that outfitter or not, doesn't matter to me. But I would, if I didn't know the ice conditions on Lake Simcoe, I would be reaching out to an outfitter.
Yep.
And calling them, and even, you'd hate to string them along and not reserve a hut, but I know most of them would give you an ice report if you called. They would tell you, where it was, where you could access, where you couldn't. The thing about, for me, Scotty, and I've taken a little bit of, as much as there's been a lot of positives, I've taken some flack recently from a few anglers because I'm not spelling out exactly where I'm fishing these days. And I'm being kind of coy about it, and I'm being that way on purpose. And it's not to protect the fishery. It's to protect people from going into places, because I'm sick and tired of wearing a floater suit and ice picks and carrying a spud. I hate fishing that way. I hate looking over my shoulder to make sure I make it back okay. I'm not putting myself, I think, in dangerous situations, but I'm definitely taking a lot more precautions this year. I just want people to understand that I see people not taking the same precautions as I do, and I witnessed it. So I'm gonna tell you a story, and this is because this is knowledge that everyone can have. I was on the Grand River on Saturday. Went fishing to Dunnville. Steve Hardcastle's running. You could pay for a membership fee there. You can't just show up and pay to park. You have to buy a membership fee at his marina for the winter, and he's pretty much sold out. So it's like a club, okay, which is fine. I think it's smart because he's getting a return on his investment, and even with a limited ice season, okay? So you park there, you walk out on the river, And everyone that I saw was spudding and walking, spudding and walking, spudding and walking. Okay. And we all spread out. Now the river's 200 meters wide, and it's maybe 200, 300 meters long of river to fish that is, I'm going to say, safe ice. Okay. And we're talking 4 inches of ice, but there's spots where it's thinner. Okay. And so a lot of us were talking and hanging out. Well, so how did the day go? The day started off by, we fished in the morning. I spent the entire day out there. We fished from sunrise until about 10 o'clock. And then, you come out of your trap and you stand up and you're like, and my buddy Brett, we drove separately. He brought burgers. He put some burgers on. We're having burgers. We're on the river. We're ice fishing. Well, then as the traps all opened up, I'm like, hey, that guy used to work at that store, and that guy used to work at that store. I know that guy from Canada Post. I'm like, these are guys I haven't seen since the start of COVID. Wow. So we're having like this whole meet and greet, all like everyone's 2 fist bumps apart, but we're like, how's your wife? How's the kids? Well, there's this patch of snow in the middle of the river. Okay, Scotty, yeah. This patch of snow is about 80 feet by 80 feet middle of the river. No one's walking through it. Everyone's walking around the patch of snow. And we kept saying, I bet you that patch is pretty thin out of there. And it's funny because this one guy would walk all the way around this big patch of snow to come say hi to us, but like purposely avoiding it. Sure enough, 3 o'clock, the night shift comes out. Okay, so you get this influx of guys, and dude, it's like a fishing community out there. Like everyone's packed into this stretch of river. We're all 20, 30 yards apart, but we're still tight in there. All of a sudden, this guy's coming down the river, spud, and I can hear him in my hut, spud, spud, spud. And I lift up my one-man clam, and I'm looking at him, and he gets to the edge of the snowpack. Okay, he didn't have the spud wrapped around his wrist. He hit the snow, and the spud went through. Now he caught the spud, but if he wouldn't have spudded at that moment and took another step, he would have been in the river. And all day we kept saying, don't walk on the snowpack, don't walk on the snowpack. And there was 2 anglers sitting like 20, maybe 10 yards from him that he was walking past. Everyone, like, it was just something to behold. Like you could feel the tension, right? And anyways, when the fishing was done, Scotty, 6 o'clock hits, the bite's done, everyone's heading home. There was this Congo line of anglers like following each other off because I said, look, we might as well all go at the same time because if something happens to somebody, like I felt safe out there, but you know what? It's ice. It's never safe. It's on a river. There wasn't a lot of flow in the Grand, but it was great to see anglers helping anglers talking to each other, anglers being social. It was great. And I missed that. And even though I got skunked on Saturday. I'm not gonna lie, I got skunked. I marked a lot of fish, didn't get any bites. My buddy got one. I got skunked, but I had a great day of ice fishing on Saturday. Great day.
Listen, Jay, you are is a testimony to all of us, a testimonial to all of us, because that's exactly what we want, man.
I know.
Because the hard water season is definitely different than that of the soft water, and you'll agree to this. Hard water is more of a social thing, and it's about getting people together because we all want to gather around where it's warm, or you're in a hut, or you're sharing stories. It's a very sociable exercise, if you want to call it that. But it's lacking that this year, and it's tough, man. And I don't want to go on another topic that we could spend all night on, but these self-deputized COVID cops that are all over social media.
Yeah.
Yes. Do we have to continue to stress ice safety because people are still going through the ice? Do we have to stress the need to practice social distancing and wearing masks and what have you? Yes, because people are still getting COVID. But I think if you don't understand what it is you're supposed to be doing during COVID and you're not practicing proper protocol, guess what? I'm under the belief that you never will. Because if you don't know what you're supposed to do by now, you're never gonna do it.
Well, when it comes to ice safety too, I think it's probably the best year ever to go with an outfitter. And it's not just because they need the support. It's because they're out there checking the ice constantly. They are not putting their huts out in unsafe areas. Support the outfitter. If you're not sure if you don't have a floater suit and chisels and that sort of knowledge about ice safety, call up an outfitter, get them to take you out. Okay, it's completely allowed. ice fishing is allowed, okay? And ice hut operators are allowed to function as long as you are not staying overnight in a bungalow, and as long as you are from the same household in a hut. Go ice fishing. Go with an outfitter. Get outside. Enjoy the weather. Like, I know I spend so much time outside, Scotty, that I think I've said that on this show before. I'm pretty sure I'm one of those seasonal, like, weather people where it's like I feel it, and I need to get outside. I need to get outdoors. And so I think that it's important that if you are not sure about ice fishing, but you just want to go with an outfitter. Do it.
I know you and I talked about this, Jay. Let's do it this Friday. We are going to on our Feature Friday segment.
Yeah,
we are going to do our very best to tag as many outfitters as possible. Not only just, as you said, to get the word out that these outfitters exist, but also, you know what? Let's spread some love. Let's fish local, and let's use some of these outfitters when the ice does get safe. Listen, they're hurting, and they can use the business. Yeah. And when COVID, decides to finally lift its head, and we've got safe ice, and we have outfitters that are looking to accommodate us, let's spend a little bit of coin and use these people.
I'm gonna throw. I'm just gonna try and find it here now. Okay, so Curtis Boyle, you're asking about where to get a rescue bag, a throw rope. Okay. I'm not even sure if they're open because of the pandemic, but Curtis, you know the Hamilton, Burlington area well. Reach out to Brewers Marine or Bay City Marine, okay? Now, these throw bags are great because now we all know we buy our little boat kit with the floating rope. But if anyone knows what I'm talking about, you can buy the one that's in a bag that you pack in, and you can actually throw the bag. And the rope comes out of the bag as you throw it. And then you can grab the bag, and it's a little easier to use. So I would reach out to a marine supply place. I'm gonna, you know what, Scotty, just because I think it's so important, I'm gonna get so people don't throw a bag for life saving.
And while you're doing that, Jay, yes, absolutely, fishing guides included, outfitters, anybody that is making a living or is trying to make a living, providing us a great adventure, great journey, and a great day out on the hard water or soft water. By all means, we're going to add them in our Feature Friday segment on CFN.
Yeah, and any outfitter anywhere, like if they're doing ice fishing, if there's some guides who are guiding, and there are also some guides who are not available, but outfitters are doing what they can. Let's help them all out. Okay, let's do that. And so, Scotty, you start the thread.
Yep.
Everyone can go in the comments and tag outfitters. And if you can, when you put a comment in, tag the lake. So put the lake. So put let's say Triple H. You're going to put Lake Simcoe and then paste the link to their Facebook page. Try and do that. Try and paste the link from their website or Facebook page so it gets traffic to their website or their page. And let's do that. And let's promote, because you're right. Curtis just mentioned Family Day, or sorry, Tony mentioned Family Day is coming up. Okay. It's actually Valentine's weekend, isn't it? Isn't it Family Day?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah.
Early this year. It's like the 15th, February the 15th, like the Monday. So let's make that happen. That's only 2 weeks away. Okay. And let's do the best we can to get everybody out ice fishing safely this year. And I hate to even say it, but it looks like we're going to have a lot of ice.
Let's hope. A
lot of ice for Family Day weekend, and it doesn't always happen. I know down here, we've tried to hold fishing events down here for families on Family Day, and it rarely happens that we have safe ice to do that. It might actually happen this year. There won't be any events, but it will happen. But speaking of events, I have good news for you. I'm going to tell you something that I heard. You know about the largest ice fishing tournament in the world? Do you know which one it is?
Is it down in Minnesota? Is it Minnesota?
Yep. Yeah. It's the Brainerd JC's ice tournament.
That's right.
Okay? This year they went virtual. Okay. This year they went virtual, Scotty. And I want you to, now that you could fish any lake you wanted to in Minnesota, and it was a virtual contest, how many participants did they have?
I want to say probably over 10,000.
Not quite. 4,700 participants signed up.
Wow.
I just put a news article. I read it yesterday. I wanted to share it tonight. 4,700 anglers participated in the Brainerd JC's ice tournament, which is the biggest ice fishing event in the world. And I've only seen pictures of it. You talk about a social event. I want to go just to see it, Scotty. I would love to go just to be there and be part of it. But they did it online. And I even saw another event in Espanola that's going to be online for 2 weeks at the end of February. It's going to be online. So I've seen a lot of events canceled, but I've seen an event for, I think it was Espanola, is going to do a 2-week online ice fishing tournament. So cool. People are finding a way, man. Like, people are finding a way, which is awesome.
It is. And you know what? At the end of the day, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just like Jim said in the opening segment, not much has changed when it comes to catching fish. It's how we go about it that has changed.
That's right.
COVID has certainly allowed us to use our imaginations when it comes to pursuing our passion and creating that community event while still, obeying COVID protocols. Very, very cool. But yeah, that's a really cool tournament. They get a lot of kids involved in that as well. But it is one huge party. There's no doubt about it. I want to go so bad. We should go, man. Like, it would be like, it's like the Mardi Gras. It reminds me of what NASCAR is to car race.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent for hard water anglers. But yeah, it's such a social event. Very cool stuff. Jay, listen, did we miss anything?
You know what? I'm gonna throw something out there, and I think it happened a couple days ago. But Trevor and I finally made an ice fishing video. I'm gonna drop it in the comments. Now, it's not the best. I'm not gonna win any Emmys or Oscars, or I might get some Rotten Tomatoes. I'm more of an angler than a videographer. But I've gotten some help from friends, and there's been a lot of people asking about doing more video of myself and Trevor. And this particular night we caught a bunch of crappie. Like, literally the crappie showed up when I brought the camera. Can you believe it? Which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun making the video, and we want to do some more. And I expect to do some more. I got a hot tip on some good bluegill fishing this week. So get some good bluegill coming up, and I'm going to try and hit Dunnville one more night this week. And yeah, that's what we got going on. But dude, it looks like we got cold weather coming.
Yeah,
it's going to get mild this week a little bit, and then we're going to see return to cold on the weekend and early next week. The long range, hey, we're not hitting -20, but we're looking at daytime highs of -2, nighttime lows of -12, even for where I am.
Yeah,
and then it's colder as you go north. So that's great news for everybody. Let's all get out there. Let's all enjoy the outdoors, do some fishing, or just get outside. And man, we are almost a year from when COVID started.
It's
almost a year.
So true. And when you look back to where we were this time last year, the thought of not having safe ice for the Winter Fish Fest was an afterthought. And picking the month of February, you would think is a safe bet. And Lake Simcoe and Mother Nature is reminding us all that nothing is a guarantee.
No, but things are looking better. It's slowly looking, just like public health, ice fishing is slowly improving. The numbers ice fishing is getting better, and thank God the cases, they're not going down like this. They're kind of going like this. So things are shaping up. Let's take what we got and there is some positive in all of this, and let's enjoy it.
Amen, brother. Listen, thanks so much for joining us as you do each Monday. And I look forward to Friday. I'll put together something. We'll talk in the meantime. But I look forward to seeing that video. And make sure everybody tune in and subscribe to Jason's channel, as it sounds as if there is more to come.
And before we leave, you tell Barry and Sally to send some of that cold air down to Delhi, Ontario, because Norfolk County needs some of that -30. Bring it here. If you got cold to spare, I want some of that -30 down here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Amen, brother. And I will leave you. We will leave you tonight again with Steve Shaw's video commemorating our good friend Big Jim and his birthday. Happy birthday again to Jim. Can't say it enough for all the
Happy birthday, buddy.
Absolutely. Enjoy, guys. We'll see you next Monday. In the meantime, stay safe.